Isaiah chapter 6. In the year of King Uzziah's death, I saw Adonai sitting on a throne, high and lifted up, and the train of his robe filled the temple. Seraphim were standing above him. Each had 6 wings. With 2 he covered his face, and with 2 he covered his feet, and with 2 he flew. One called out to another and said, Holy, holy, holy is Adonai Tsabaoth. The whole earth is full of his glory. Then the posts of the door trembled at the voice of those who called, and the house was filled with smoke. Then I said, Oy to me, for I am ruined, for I am a man of unclean lips, and I am dwelling among a people of unclean lips. For my eyes have seen the King, Adonai Tsabaoth. Then one of the seraphim flew to me with a glowing coal in his hand, which he had taken with tongs from the altar. He touched my mouth with it and said, Behold, this has touched your lips. Your iniquity is taken away, and your sins atoned for. Then I heard the voice of Adonai saying, Whom should I send, and who will go for us? So I said, Hineni, send me. Then he said, Go, tell this people, hear without understanding, and see without perceiving. Make the heart of this people fat, their ears heavy, and their eyes blind. Else they would see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their heart, and return and be healed. Then I said, Adonai, how long? He answered, Until cities are laid waste and without inhabitant. Houses are without people, and the land is utterly desolate. Adonai will drive people away. The desertion of the land will be vast. Though a tenth still be in it, it will again be burned, as a terebinth tree or as an oak, though whose stump remains when cut down, so the holy seed will be the stump. Chapter 7. Now it came about in the days of Ahaz, son of Jotham, and son of Uzziah, king of Judah, that King Rezin of Aram and King Pekah, son of Remaliah of Israel, went up to Jerusalem to war against it, but could not prevail against it. When it was reported to the house of David, saying, Aram is camped in Ephraim, his heart as well as the heart of his people shook like the trees of the forest shaking with the wind. Then Adonai said to Isaiah, Go out now to meet Ahaz, you and Shear Jashub your son, at the end of the aqueduct from the upper pool, in the highway of the fuller's field, and say to him, Keep calm and be quiet. Do not fear nor be faint-hearted because of these 2 stubs of smoldering firebrands, because of the fierce anger of Rezin and Aram, nor of the son of Remaliah, because Aram has plotted harm against you, along with Ephraim and the son of Remaliah, saying, Let us go up against Judah, terrorize it, divide it for ourselves, and appoint Tabil's son as king in the midst of it. Thus says Adonai Elohim, It will not stand, nor will it occur, for the head of Aram is Damascus, and the head of Damascus is Rezin. Within 65 years, Ephraim will be broken and not be a people. The head of Ephraim is Samaria, and the head of Samaria is Remaliah's son. If you do not trust, you will not stand. Then Adonai spoke again to Ahaz, saying, Ask for a sign from Adonai your God, from the depths of Sheol or the heights of heaven. But Ahaz said, I won't ask. I wouldn't test Adonai. Then he said, Hear now, house of David. Is it a small thing for you to weary men? Will you also weary my God? Therefore Adonai himself will give you a sign. Behold, the virgin will conceive. When she is giving birth to a son, she will call his name Emmanuel. He will be eating curds and honey by the time he knows to refuse evil and choose good. For before the boy knows to refuse evil and choose good, the land of the 2 kings you dread will be abandoned. Adonai will bring on you, on your people, on your father's house, such days as have never come since the day Ephraim separated from Judah and the king of Assyria. In that day Adonai will whistle for the fly at the source of the Nile of Egypt and for the bee in the land of Assyria. Then they will come, all of them, and will settle in the steep wadis, and in the clefts of the cliffs, and in all the thorn bushes, and in all the watering holes. In that day Adonai will shave with a razor hired beyond the river with the king of Assyria, the head and the hair of the legs, and even clip off the beard. In that day it will be that a man will rear a calf and 2 sheep, and from the abundant milk they give. He will eat curds, for anyone left in the land will eat curds and honey. In that day it will be that every place where there were 1,000 vines or 1,000 silver shekels will become briars and thorns, with arrows and bows. One will come there, since all the land will become briars and thorns. As for all the hills that were tilled with the hoe, you will not go there for fear of briars and thorns. Instead, it will be for grazing of oxen and roaming of sheep. Chapter 8. Then Adonai said to me, Take yourself a great tablet and write on it with a man's stylus, Maher Shalal Hashbaz. So I took for myself trustworthy witnesses, Uriah the Kohen and Zechariah son of Yeberechiah. Then I went to the prophetess, and she conceived and bore a son. Then Adonai said to me, Call his name Maher-shalal Hashbaz, for before the child will have knowledge to cry, My father or my mother, the wealth of Damascus and the spoil of Samaria will be carried away before the king of Assyria. Then Adonai spoke to me further, saying, Because these people have refused the softly flowing waters of Shiloah, and rejoiced with Rezin and Remaliah's son, therefore, behold, Adonai is bringing on them the waters of the river, mighty and massive, Assyria's king with all his glory. It will rise over all its channels and spill over all its banks. Then it will sweep through Judah, overflow as it passes through, reaching even to the neck. So the spread of its wings will be the full breadth of your land, Emmanuel. Make an uproar, O peoples, but you will be broken in pieces. And give ear, all you of far countries. Arm yourselves, yet be shattered. Arm yourselves, yet be shattered. Take counsel together, but it will amount to nothing. Speak a word, but it will not stand, for God is with us. For thus Adonai spoke to me with a strong hand, warning me that I should not walk in the way of these people, saying, Do not say, It is a conspiracy, about everything that these people call a conspiracy. You must not fear or tremble at what they fear. Adonai Tzabaoth, he will you sanctify, and let him be your fear trembling at him. He will be a sanctuary, but a stone of stumbling and a rock of offense to both the houses of Israel, a trap and a snare to the inhabitants of Jerusalem. Many among them will stumble, fall, and be broken, snared, and caught. Bind up the testimony, seal the instruction with my people, my disciples. I will wait for Adonai, who is hiding his face from the house of Jacob, and I will look eagerly for him. Here I am with the children that Adonai has given me as signs and wonders in Israel, from Adonai Tzabaoth, who dwells on Mount Zion. When they say to you, Consult the mediums and necromancers who chirp and mutter, shouldn't a people seek their God? Should a people consult the dead on behalf of the living? To Torah and to the testimony, if they do not speak according to this word, it is because they have no light. They will pass this way that are hard-pressed and hungry, and it will turn out that when they are hungry, they will become enraged and curse their king and their God. Whether they turn their faces upward or look to the earth, behold, distress and darkness, the gloom of anguish, and they will be driven into darkness. But there is no gloom to her who was in anguish, as in time past he treated lightly the land of Zebulun, the land of Naphtali, but in the future he will bring glory by the way of the sea, beyond the Jordan, Galilee of the Gentiles. Chapter 9. The people walking in darkness will see a great light. Upon those dwelling in the land of the shadow of death, light will shine. You will multiply the nation. You will increase the joy. They will rejoice before you like the joy in the harvest, as they revel when they divide spoil. For you will break the burdensome yoke and the rod on his shoulder, the war club of his oppressor, as in the day of Midian. For every stomping boot, quaking, and cloak, rolled in blood will be for burning, fuel for the fire. For to us a child is born, a son will be given to us, and the government will be upon his shoulder. His name will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, My Father of Eternity, Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his government and shalom there will be no end, on the throne of David and over his kingdom, to establish it and uphold it through justice and righteousness from now until forevermore. The zeal of Adonai Tsabaoth will accomplish this. Adonai sent a word to Jacob, and it fell upon Israel. All the people will know what Ephraim and the inhabitants of Samaria say in pride and in arrogance of heart. The bricks are fallen, but we will rebuild with cut stones. The sycamore are cut down, but we will replace them with cedars. Therefore Adonai raises up Rezin's adversaries against them, and spurs on his enemies. The Arameans from the east and the Philistines from the west, they will devour Israel with open mouth. For all this his anger is not turned away, yet his hand is still outstretched. Yet the people will not turn back to the one who strikes them, nor will they seek Adonai Tsabaoth. So Adonai will cut off from Israel head and tail, palm branch and bulrush in a single day. The elder and the man of rank, he is the head. The prophet who teaches falsehood, he is the tail. The leaders of this people lead them astray. Those they mislead are swallowed up. Therefore Adonai will have no joy in their young men, nor will he have compassion on their orphans and widows. For everyone is ungodly and an evildoer, and every mouth speaks foolishness. For all his anger is not turned away, yet his hand is still outstretched. For wickedness burns like a fire and consumes the briars and thorns. It kindles the thickets of the forest, so they roll up in a column of smoke. But the wrath of Adonai Tsabaoth is the land burnt up. The people are as fuel for the fire. No one spares his brother. One grabs with the right hand, but is hungry, and eats with the left hand, but is not satisfied. Therefore, not everyone will eat the flesh of his own arm. Manasseh will devour Ephraim, and Ephraim Manasseh. Both are against Judah. For all this his anger is not turned away, yet his hand is outstretched. Chapter 10. Oi to those enacting unjust decrees and recording corrupt legislation, to deprive the helpless of justice and rob the rights of the poor of my people, so that widows may be their spoil and orphans their prey. What will you do in the day of visitation, when desolation comes from afar? To whom will you flee for help? Where will you leave your wealth? One can only crouch among the captives or collapse among the slain. For all this his anger is not turned away, yet his hand is still outstretched. Oi to Assyria, the rod of my anger, the club in their hand is my indignation. I am sending it against an ungodly nation and against the people of my fury. I am commissioning it to take spoil and plunder, to trample them down like mud in the streets. Yet that is not what Assyria intends, nor is that what he is thinking about. Rather, his heart is to destroy and to cut down nations, only a few. For he says, aren't all my princes kings? Isn't Calno like Carchemish? Isn't Hamath like Arpad? Isn't Samaria like Damascus? As my hand has reached the kingdoms of the idols with more graven images than Jerusalem and Samaria, as I've done to Samaria and her idols, won't I also do to Jerusalem and her idols? Therefore it will come to pass when Adonai finishes all his work on Mount Zion and on Jerusalem, I will punish the fruit of the arrogant heart of the king of Assyria and the glorying of his haughty eyes. For he said, by the strength of my own hand I've done it, and my own wisdom, for I am shrewd. I abolished the borders of peoples and plundered their treasures. As a mighty one I cast down inhabitants. My hand found the riches of the peoples as a nest. Like gathering forsaken eggs, I have gathered the entire earth. Not a wing fluttered, not a beak opened and chirped. Should the axe boast against the one who chops with it? Should the saw magnify itself against the one who wields it? It would be like a rod waving the one who lifts it, or like a staff hoisting up the one who is not wood. Therefore will the Lord Adonai Tsabaoth send leanness among his fat ones. Under its glory he will kindle a burning like a blazing fire. So the light of Israel will become a fire, and its Holy One a flame. He will burn and consume its thorns and briars in one day. Both the glory of his forest and its fruitful field he will consume, both soul and body. It will be like a sick man wasting away. The remnant of the trees of his forest will be so few a child could record them. Yet it will come about in that day that the remnant of Israel, those of the house of Jacob who escaped, will never again depend on the one who struck them down, but will depend upon Adonai, the Holy One of Israel, in truth. A remnant will return, even the remnant of Jacob, to the mighty God. For though your people of Israel be as the sand of the sea, only a remnant of them will return. Destruction has been decreed, justice overflows. For a complete destruction as decreed will Adonai Elohei Tsabaoth make throughout the whole land. Therefore thus says Adonai Elohei Tsabaoth, O my people dwelling in Zion, do not be afraid of Assyria, though he strikes you with a war club and lift up his rod against you as Egypt did. For in a very little while my indignation against you will be spent, and my anger will turn to their destruction. Adonai Sabaoth will stir up against him a scourge, as in the slaughter of Midian at the rock of Oreb. As his staff was over the sea, so will he lift it up, as he did in Egypt. In that day his burden will be taken off your shoulders, and his yoke off your neck. Indeed, the yoke will be broken because of fatness. He has come to Ayath and passed through Migron. At Michmas he deposited his supplies. They have crossed over the pass. They have taken up lodging at Geba. Ramah is terrified. Gibeath Shaul has fled. Shriek your cry, daughter of Galim. Listen, O Laish, O poor Anathoth. Madmenah has fled. The inhabitants of Gebim take over. This very day he will halt at Nob. He shakes his fist at the mountain of the daughter of Zion, and the hill of Jerusalem. Behold, the Lord Adonai Sabaoth will lop off the branches with terror, so the tall ones will be cut down and the lofty ones laid low. Yes, he will hack down the thickets of the forest with iron, and Lebanon with its majesty will fall.